Hello, welcome back to our final installment of literature this week. I'm just going to tell you what happens in books 7 and 8 rather than having you read them, and I will use the pictures from my copy of Gareth Hines' illustrated graphic novel, The Odyssey, to help me relay what's going on. Here we go. So, as you recall, Odysseus is left in Book 6 in the sacred grove. He waits until he thinks Nausicaa has made it back to palace, and then he comes into the city by himself. Athena actually takes the form of a young girl and guides Odysseus through the palace. She actually wraps him in a mist so that the Phaeacians, who are a little xenophobic, meaning they're afraid of foreigners, don't really take notice of him, don't notice him. And she leads him all the way up to the palace and then poof, disappears. Right? And kind of Odysseus is like, oh, that was a god. Anyway, so he is very impressed with the wealth of the palace. He walks in past these cool guard dogs, and he enters as there is a great feast going on. And all the while the mist surrounds him, so no one notices Odysseus until suddenly he runs up to the queen. All right, Arete is the queen, Alcinous's wife, and he falls just as he was told by Nausicaa, and then again by Athena. Falls to his knees in front of Arete and says, please have pity on me, have mercy on me. Help a stranger. And of course, they do all this Xeni exchange. So they're like, please sit with us. We'll have a feast. Everything will be great. And then, whatever you need. Alcinous is like, if you need a ship, we got ships. Tomorrow we'll call the men and we'll assemble ships for you. In the meantime, after you've eaten, why don't you go and rest? Tomorrow will be a busy day. And so that's exactly what happens. Odysseus goes and rests and sleeps in a bed for the first time, like a bed inside a house for the first time in who knows how long. Remember, he's been living in the cave with Calypso for like 9 years. So that's all that happens in Book 7. Pretty simple. Book 8, on the other hand, is about Odysseus and the Phaeacians. And really, this sets the stage for the next part of the story. All right, so Alcinous goes kind of in almost a democratic assembly of the Phaeacians and calls them together and says, hey, should we give this guy a boat? We're going to give him a boat and let's celebrate. We're going to hold games in his honor. And so there's all the typical games that we've come to hear about, the wrestling, the lance throwing, the boxing, yada, yada, yada. And Odysseus is having a great time until one young Phaeacian upstart's like, come on, old man, you should try to join. He's like, no, I've had enough of sport and actual war, young man. And then, of course, the guy mocks Odysseus, and Odysseus is like, you know what, I'll put you in your place. He gets up, he grabs the discus, and he throws it farther than anybody. And everyone's kind of like shocked, and there's tension in the celebration suddenly, and Odysseus is like, take that, I'll throw anything you got, and I'll throw it farther than you, and I'll be stronger than you, and I'll throw a spear further than you. And Alcinous is like, whoa, everybody's friends, his mistake, let's watch some dancing. And so there's dancing and singing, and Odysseus is appeased, and everyone comes up and gives Odysseus gifts, including the young man that offended him earlier. And Odysseus is like, all is forgiven, you're all blessed, yada, yada, yada. All right, so they go back inside to celebrate and feast. And at the feast, right, as you can see in the picture, Odysseus is given all good things at hand to eat and drink. And then they call upon a bard, a blind bard, to sing them a story. And of course, he sings them a story of the Trojan War. That picture there is actually of Ares and Aphrodite in a little bit of a tryst, but we'll skip that one. He sings a story of a Trojan War, and Odysseus kind of starts crying, and then he sings a happier song, and then Odysseus is fine, and then he goes back and he sings the story of Odysseus and the Trojan horse, and Odysseus starts crying again, and King Alcinous is like, stop, let's not do this. Clearly, anything about the Trojan War upsets our guests. Please, tell us who you are. Don't keep us in suspense any longer. What can we do to help you? Clearly, you fought at Troy. You know all these men. These memories still overwhelm you. We want to help you. Tell us, stranger, who are you? And Odysseus says, you're right. I am in pain. I must tell you, I should start with my name. And that's actually where Book 9 begins, which we will tackle next week with some stories from Mr. Macaluso. It starts with, I am Odysseus Laertes' son. You must know my name, and now I will tell you all of my misfortunes. Well, that's pretty much what happens in Book 7 and 8. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You can see it doesn't do much for the plot, so that's why we skipped them. And I look forward to talking about these books, and then we'll talk about Book 9 and a lot more of Odysseus' stories next week. Thanks for watching.